And welcome to another episode of the podcast here. Brother Long, attending from Rwanda. Happy to have you back again.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
And where we left off last time, we did our horizontal analysis. We got more in depth to figure out how do we get out of the troubles we're having, right? What else are we missing? And we actually introduced the causal loop diagram, right? And what the causal loop diagram did was help us to understand what are the triggers that causes negative results, negative effects, and based on that, what are other things that we need to do based on those relationships to help us to get to our key result, right? To reach the objective. So we did that investigation. We figured out, oh, well, we need to do some other things in order to reach our objective. And then we had to make some decisions. And the decisions we had to make were, do we actually add to our current key result? So do we add that in and try to do it this quarter? Do we have the capacity? Or if we don't have the capacity, do we delay it and push it into another quarter in the future? Right? And the other part, again, that was kind of like part one of the horizontal analysis. Part two of the horizontal analysis is to go ahead and map out all the things that you need to do to get to your key result or to get to your objective. And you end up developing something we call a roadmap. And so today's session was going to be based on creating a roadmap. And I'm not sure how familiar are you with roadmaps?
I've only heard them.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is I'm going to explain the concept of a roadmap, and we'll create one, and then you'll be able to see like here's how you do it, here's what's involved, and we'll go from there. So a
Excellent.
roadmap basically is a graphical representation of the path that you're going to take to get to your objective. And when we do this graphical representation, what we want to do is just to make sure that we cover, again, horizontal analysis, everything necessary to reach that objective. We want to make sure that it's visible. We can all see it. We can all agree to it. And that's how we get that alignment. So we start out with this. You can see I drew a line here. And this line represents on this x-axis represents time. And when we're doing our OKRs, we said we're going to break things up by quarter. And because we're breaking things up by quarter, the way it's going to turn out is that we're going to have 4 quarters to make up the objective. So I'm going to actually add some lines here so that we have 4 different sections, right? And then what we'll do is we're going to lay out, here's what results we're going to have in each one of these sections, right? And so I think yesterday, what example did we use yesterday?
Weight loss.
Weight loss, right? So this will be, hey, what results we're going to have in Q1 for weight loss? Here's what we'll have for Q2. Right, and we'll do this until we have all 4 quarters represented. This will be Q3. And this will be Q4. So now, once we have all the quarters in there, now what we do, again, the whole line represents the whole objective. And just as a reminder, I'm going to go ahead and write the goal for the objective. And the objective goal was 176 pounds. And this represents a 24-pound weight loss for the year. And I probably blew that this morning because I had a huge breakfast. But so what we'll do is we'll actually lay out in each one of the quarters, we lay out the key results for that quarter. And again, you can have more than one result, right? You try to limit it, but for every dimension, every aspect, every characteristic of the objective, you want to have a key result for it.
So something you said about your breakfast gave me a question because it sounds like I don't know if it's a I don't know what will we name it? Would it be a whatever it would be? But what you basically just said was that you need to put something on the portion sizes of your meals in order to, because we talked about what you need to do to make sure you don't gain the weight back as you lose it. So in our discussion, we just realized that part of that is putting a limit on the sizes of the portions of your meals. So where would that go in where we're at so far? Would it be would it be somewhere in our causal loop? Would we add it as another OKR?
Yeah, so we would have discovered it in our causal loop, but I'm going to add what I'm going to do, what results I'm going to have per quarter as another key result. So maybe in the first quarter, I'm going to understand just the limits of different meals and options. So I haven't actually limited my meals yet. I just did the investigation to figure out how I should limit the meals and educated myself. And then maybe in the next quarter, I go beyond that. I don't just figure out the limits. Maybe in the next quarter, I start removing, or maybe I say bad ingredients removed from diet. And then maybe in Q3, again, I still need a 6-pound weight loss. But instead of just removing these bad things from my diet, now I've started limiting the calories, right? So caloric limits incorporated per meal.
So when we discover the challenges in our loop diagram, we plan ways to address those challenges in our other half of our horizontal. So the first half of the horizontal analysis, we're going to identify the issues. And in the second half of the horizontal analysis, we're going to make plans to prevent those issues from arising.
Yes, you're preventing issues from arising, but your primary focus is looking at the objectives that you have overall.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure that everything necessary to accomplish the objective
Okay.
has actually been done. So the reason we care about those issues and we did the causal diagram is to figure out, hey, the stuff I have, are these the only things necessary to accomplish the objective?
Mm.
Are there other things I need to consider? I need to do some other things. And now we're doing the second part of the horizontal analysis. We're saying those other things that I need to consider, let's go ahead and plan on what results we're going to have considering those other things. This makes sense?
Yes, sir.
And this is probably the toughest part of the horizontal analysis is really putting it into the context of here's the overall objective. What else needs to be accomplished to get there? It's often a harder thing to consider because, again, what we're used to doing, we're used to thinking in terms of actions. So we think about what do we need to do, and then our focus is just on doing those actions. But if you don't consider all the results that you want, then you won't be able to consider all the actions necessary to bring about those results. In most cases, when you have an objective, there's more than one characteristic that you want to achieve for that objective. We may say something like, I want to jump. But the reality is that I want to reach a certain height. I want to stay in the air for a certain amount of time. I may have some objectives as to how effortless it should be, right? Am I winded? So there's more than one characteristic we use to judge the outcome. And if you don't think about all the characteristics, you're never going to think about all the activities necessary to accomplish those different aspects of the result. And so that's what you want to focus on. How are you feeling about this?
So it's in our horizontal analysis when we're asking ourselves what all is necessary to accomplish this. In order to ask ourselves that, we have to ask ourselves what are the characteristics of the objective that we want to accomplish to help flush out those things.
Correct.
Okay.
And hopefully we've taken our time when we wrote the objective. You wrote it clearly and you thought about all the different aspects of it. So it already exists. But from my experience, most often people don't put as much thought into it as they should. And so you end up having to revisit it, rethink about what it is that you really want so you can figure out what you're going to do in order to create it.
And then we think, and then we do our causal loop diagram to try to identify the potential barriers to those characteristics we want to achieve.
Correct. And so, here, and you talked about the magic question we want to ask ourselves. And the magic question I want to ask myself, the right question up here, is if I accomplish the key results for each quarter, will that accomplish the objective for the year? Because often it won't. Part of the horizontal analysis is to see, will this lead to that objective? And if it doesn't, we need to get some additional results to make it equal up. If 4 quarters equals a year, and the objective is a year-long objective, then basically the objective can be decomposed into these four pieces. And these four pieces, if I sum them together, should equal the objective. There should be an equality there. But again, you've got to actually do the analysis to make sure that it is equal, right? Balance the equation. How are you feeling about this so far? This makes sense?
Yes, they're stepping stones. We want to make sure that our stairs are leading to the door that we want to get to.
That's right. And I like that analogy because sometimes left to our own devices, we'll build the the stairs and it won't quite reach the door. And without doing this analysis up front, you won't know. You'll be walking up the stairs and you'll get to the last stair and notice there's a gap between you and the door, and that's when you figure it out. So
And this takes time. It takes time to go through this. And now I understand why you said the leadership and management needs to spend more of their time in this strategic planning,
mhm,
because it's not about the doing, it's about doing the right thing.
that's right. And
Yeah.
I estimate that you really want um, over 25% of a manager's time being spent doing this type of strategic planning analysis, which, most people think that they're too busy to do it. And I'm arguing you're too busy not to do it. If you don't do this, you'll end up doing some work that may not be necessary and it's wasted effort. How are you feeling about this?
I'm feeling like I can understand why this form of strategic planning can replace all others. Although I don't know all other types of strategic planning, I don't see how this could fail if done and implemented the right way. It appears to cover all bases logically. I can't possibly see where the failure would come unless we're not doing the things we're not doing. And it reminds me of how you said, if you leave out one part of Scrum, then it's not Scrum anymore.
Right.
And so I can understand how we have to do, you can't skip a step. You can't skip a step.
Yeah, and what tends to happen in our society is that managers think they're too busy, so they'll write the objectives mainly because their manager is telling them that you better do it. So they write them down. They write the key results, but again, they don't do this analysis. Don't do this analysis, all that work is useless because a lot of times you're doing the wrong stuff. So again, what you do is he's like, hey, and you want to phrase it this way: if I, given that my objective is to lose 24 pounds, if I lose 6 pounds in Q1, and I understand the limits of different meals and options, and I lose an additional 6 pounds in Q2, and I've removed any of these bad ingredients from my diet, and in Q3, I'll lose 6 pounds, but I understand here's the caloric limits that I can personally have given my natural rate of burning off calories and the amount of exercise that I'm conducting. So I understand here's my limits, here's how many calories I can have, because here's how many I'm going to burn. And then in fourth quarter, I lose 6 pounds. And well, now I've incorporated the caloric limits, the different ingredients. I've thought about that stuff and I use that knowledge on both my meal prep and when I go grocery shopping. So I don't even buy things that are gonna put me over my caloric intake limits or things that I should be cutting out of my diet. So now I have a sustainable system in place. So if I do those things, if I do all those things together, will I have achieved my 24-pound weight loss goal? Or are there other things I need to consider, right? So again, this is the method you're going to use, double checking to make sure that the steps that you're taking actually lead you, again, the stairs actually lead you to the door. Otherwise, it's all for naught. What do you think?
It's another thing that it's not rocket science, and it makes sense, but it's just we don't know to do this. You know, this is not something that you just most people would know intuitively. You need this training. Somebody has to explain this to you, and then you have to have the discipline and wherewithal to overcome yourself to follow these practices. But since it's written, it can be objective.
Right.
And this is great, man. This stuff is great.
Yeah, and you hit it exactly when you said it takes the discipline. Typically, what happens is that we like to think that we can create things in the first try, and we don't want to check. But all these analysis steps are forcing you to check to make sure that you actually obtain the results. Those checks are what I call success insurance. And I call it success insurance because I buy insurance to kind of guarantee that I'll have some recourse in the case of a loss. I want to guarantee that I'm going to be successful. So I do the checks, I do the analysis to add in that extra measure of confidence so I know that my success is guaranteed. And again, you're right, it takes discipline, right? Because hardly anyone, leaves the house. I used that example last time. Hardly anyone leaves the house and then tries the door to make sure they locked it. We like to assume that I've locked the door for 20 years, I've done it perfectly, and I never forget, and I won't forget. So we just leave the house with the assumption that we locked the door. We don't actually check. Everyone wants to believe that they don't have to spend the time to double check. But mistakes happen, and all of these analysis techniques are geared towards doing the double check. The more important something is, the more you should double check. So if I have an OKR that's critical to the organization, I should probably have more key results. I should be checking more stuff. Probably should be checking more frequently, but I should definitely check more things also. Let me pause. How do you feel about this?
I I feel like we are systematically and logically progressing to ensuring our success in whatever objective it is that we're seeking to accomplish, which excites me because the things that are in my heart are always something to deal with our community and the plight of the people. And a lot of the struggles that we face have been generational struggles that's not improving, and people are just satisfied being in the fight and doing stuff, even though we're not getting any results or seeing any change. So
Right.
just understanding the potential that this could have in our, the upliftment of the community and the things that we're trying to do, man, it's like I always believed that God was going to use me to make changes in my lifetime. That it wasn't going to have to be something for 10 generations away, but that in my lifetime I could see change. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but this is kind of like it's making me feel like this is what I've been waiting on. Okay, I'm 37 now. By the time I'm 40, I'm gonna be a nightmare. I'm gonna be a nightmare in the community, man. And I could just see it. I could just see it. Any community I walk into, I will be able to transform it and bring success to the people and start to change and impact lives, man. It's nuts.
Yeah. And the beautiful part of this is that when I create this thing, I've automatically built in a management system. And what do I mean by that? Well, these are results that I should have. So by the end of Q1, I should be able to look and see that I achieved these things. Let's say I achieve these things in the second month. Then if it didn't take me 3 months, it took me only 2, then I know that I'm roughly a month ahead of schedule. And likewise, if I didn't achieve it at the end of Q1, I can estimate, well, how long will it take me to achieve the rest of the work? Say
So
that took you a month.
what do you
Then,
do in the event that you're ahead of schedule? What do you do?
well, first I'm going to celebrate, congratulate my team,
Okay.
right? And then normally what I'll do is I increase the expectations for the next quarter. If if I was able to do, instead of actually losing 6 pounds, if I lost 10 pounds, well, and if I had planned that I was going to lose 6 in each quarter, I would think that I should be to lose 10 pounds in Q2, right? Because I said I could do an even amount each quarter. Even amount would be 10 pounds. So now my overall objective may even change too. Instead of 24 pounds, maybe I can lose 40 pounds.
Go anorexic on
And I actually did that. I actually lost 40 pounds.
them. Wow.
During the height of the pandemic, I was about 220, right? And I weighed myself yesterday, and I was 177.
How tall are you?
5'10". So,
Congratulations.
thanks. So again, it can be done, and again, I can use this to set expectations with everyone, right? So this is the roadmap. What we'll do in the next episode is go into a little bit more detail of how do you use these tools to manage your workforce. Because again, it shouldn't just be for understanding purposes or because it's part of the process. Doing these things should actually help you. So in the future, next episode, we'll say, well, here's how it helps you. Here's what you get out of it. But until then, I'll leave you with the last comments.
I'm certain that the majority of people who are going to be watching this, they're going to be feeling the same way I feel. If they're a person who is out there involved in the trying of doing of things.
Yeah.
And you know, we got to get a superhero name for you, like something like the confidence bringer or something, man, because this stuff, I know that everyone who deals with you has to become confident in their success. And I know that's important.
Well, maybe next episode we'll also think of that nickname. I may have to wear a cape. But until then, we will sign off.